Don't spend money till you're making money. I'll have agents come over and say, okay, what do I need to do? I need to buy signs. I need to do all these other things. I'm like, do you have listings right now? No. Then why do you need to buy signs? I think agents are really good, and our industry is a target because we chase shiny objects. Uh, and we think it's almost like the easy button.
Thanks, everyone. Shaune Corbett with Real Estate Success DFW. And today I have Elizabeth Riley. How are you, Elizabeth?
I am fantastic. How are you today?
Doing really well, really well.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. Elizabeth and we go back, I would say somewhere around 7 years ago. And I always wonder, because I know this is often for her, where people will call and ask her experience where she's at in her current brokerage. And I was asked to do an interview with a few different people before I ever made, the move. And there were about four people above us in my particular leg they were inviting me to, and none of them sold real estate. And I said, wait a minute here. I sell a lot of real estate. That's how I'm a broker owner. I can answer real estate questions for my agents. I think that's a value add. But if you guys aren't selling real estate, how am I supposed to come over here and sell real estate? I need to know somebody that sells real estate, one. And two, I'd like to bring my brand over and see what that looks like. So Elizabeth out of Austin running the Luxe Realty Group. Is that what it's called? Luxe Realty?
Luxe Property Group.
Luxe
Close.
Property Group.
Yeah.
She kept her brand. And I even asked her about how you've got your brand still, and you decided not to run under somebody else or run your own. How did that work out for you? And she says it's not changed at all. There's been virtually no change as far as what people see me as, in selling real estate. And that was kind of a concern. I didn't want to like just get absorbed into the brokerage and then your value wasn't what you already, brought. And I found out that the brokerage was really more interested in you growing your brand, not being the brand. So anyway, so that was a really good conversation. And look at that. I came over and I've been here for 6.5 years now. And you've been here for at least 10 and a half.
10. This month, it's been 10 years here. 20 years in the business, 10 at EXP.
Wow. And I know that you've hit icon every year you've been there.
I just hit my 10th icon. I did.
How many agents at EXP have done that?
I'm the only one. Yeah. I'm the first icon ever named at the company, and I'm the only one with 10 in the globe around the globe. So it's pretty surreal. Huge opportunity where at my old brokerage, I was there for 10 years. So grateful for my time there, so grateful for my path there. But I got a baseball cap every single year. And I will tell you, that does not pay your mortgage or move the needle, in creating legacy or opportunities. But the stock with the Icon Awards definitely does.
Yeah. Just adding that up, right? Times 10, $160,000. You don't think your last broker would have paid that?
Not really, no.
Probably not.
No, it's definitely created time freedom and financial freedom in ways I never imagined. And before I was on a hamster wheel, and it's just been a life-changing experience. But again, I have the gift of hindsight. Looking back 10 years, I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And so I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful.
I love it. I always kind of start with some basics. What got you into real estate? Let's talk about some kind of initial things. Why are you selling real estate? You could have done a lot of things.
Yeah, so my background's marketing and events and doing bigger things. So before I got into real estate, I was actually working for a famous tennis player, and we were doing major corporate events around major sporting events. So Greece Olympics, Australian Open, things like that. And that's really what I love. I love to travel. I love to create. I love to see different things come together. My husband and I were living in Atlanta, Georgia, and my CPA said that one of us had to get our real estate license because we had investment properties to the point where it was costing us more not for one of us to have our license to take opportunities there. So I had no interest in being in real estate, quite frankly. I told my husband, I was like, I don't want to be in real estate, but he was corporate. So he had the corporate job, he had the corporate benefits. And so I got my license a little bit kicking and screaming. I talked to a number of different people. Keller Williams at the time was the only one that would let me be part-time. So I went to Keller Williams, loved being at Keller Williams, loved my group and my colleagues and my friends, and became a producer in Georgia. And then in 2008, we were transferred to Austin, Texas, which is interesting because so many people are like, well, why did you get in real estate? It was the worst time in the industry. And in Austin, the market was better than Atlanta. So I saw opportunity. I was like, well, if everybody thinks the market is so horrible, people are still buying and selling. I can still show up and serve people at a high level. And so I built my business in Georgia, not or in Texas, not knowing anybody. I had to start over again and not knowing anybody. And then 2014 was the number one agent at my brokerage. We had 650 agents and I was number one. And I never really tried to be number one, right? I always feel like if you serve your clients and you show up and you treat each person like one and only, the business is going to come. But I came home that day and I said, I'm getting out of the business because I was just on that hamster wheel. I didn't want to start my own brokerage. I didn't want the liability. I didn't want all the things that came with owning your own brokerage. I wanted to do the things I was passionate about. Nobody was doing that. And then EXP, my whole crew, my whole relationships in Georgia had all gone to EXP. The company had 400 agents at the time when I was introduced to them. And it was just something different. Somebody was doing something bigger and believing in what the agents were doing and allowing for ownership in different ways. And I thought, well, why not? What's the worst that could happen? So that's why I got into real estate. And like I said, it's been 20 years this month. I'm having more fun than I've ever had before.
I love it. What would you think your percentage of sphere of influence versus cold opportunities is?
Oh, 100%. I've never cold called. I've never knocked on doors. Here's a fun fact. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but I've never done an open house. I'm more of an introvert. So I have to, when you're more of an introvert, or you have to figure out what's authentic to you in building your business. And so I really truly believe in whatever you do, you build the relationship, the business is going to come. And so that's what I did in Georgia. I knew that worked there. I had to meet people. And I always wanted people to say, oh, this is my friend Elizabeth. She's really great in real estate, instead of, oh my gosh, there's Elizabeth Run. She's going to talk about real estate. So 100% of my business is referral based. It used to be more past clients referrals, sphere like that. It has in the last few years transitioned more into agent to agent referrals. So I would probably say now I'm probably 75-25%, agent to agent, probably 75%, 25% probably sphere. So
So the agents in the network will say, "Oh, I'll see if Elizabeth will do it." And then you're like, "Sure." And then you just work out a referral. And
correct.
you just
Agents from
get,
all over the globe or in the country. And I got a referral from Portugal last year, right? So yes, absolutely. So my business is all 100% referral, not cold, not cold at all. That's just not how I operate in any parts of my life. And so I'm not going to operate that way in my business either.
let me ask a fun question. So
Yeah.
most of the time, I don't find agents reach the point where they can get to 100% referral or sphere of influence based business. So there,
Yeah.
it takes a process to kind of get there and establish yourself and grow.
Mhm.
You do have to fill your buckets, and it could be referral based systems, it could be open houses, it could be other things. And it's okay that you haven't. And if you don't have to, then great. Most have to go through that process. Do you have a listing presentation, for example?
I do have a listing presentation, but to be fair, I don't really use it anymore, right? I've been in the business long enough. I've internalized what I'm going to say. When I meet with somebody, most of them, I know them or it's a warm introduction. I already know what I'm going to say. I can identify pretty quickly on the disc profile what they're leading with, and so I know how to have that conversation. I do a pre-listing packet for all of my sellers, and I make sure that they have that information in advance, so it saves a lot of time. So we can be really intentional with our meeting. So I don't do a listing presentation per se. I always have the numbers with me. Always have the information with me. I have a listing presentation. I just don't refer to it because everything's internal.
I mean, I could understand. I don't have a buyer presentation or a listing presentation. If I show up, I'm listing the house.
Right.
That's the reason why I asked that, because most don't even, because we're taught a couple things. One, you should have presentations for all this stuff because everyone's
Right.
supposed to be some type of cold, conversion. And, I had another thought. Anyway, on the pre-listing packet, when you do that,
Mhm.
are you looking for the obvious things like the survey, seller's disclosure, all those type of basic pre-work documents, or do you have something else special about a
Yeah,
pre-listing
so the
document?
way the pre-listing package came about was actually in Georgia. I was finding that we were sitting there for 3 hours or more, just going through everything. And my attention span is not that long. And also, I just wanted to get to what was going to move the needle, how I could serve them, how I could help them. So I wanted to get a lot of that information out of the way up front. I'm in the luxury division. And so a lot of my listings, the luxury division and the resources we have there are second to none. They're incredible. But I will send a pre-listing package in advance for a number of reasons. Number one, I can tell pretty quickly what the personality profile is, right? So if they filled it out, then it's all colored everywhere and it's all written all everywhere, I usually can tell it's like a high I, right? If it's still in the package, it hasn't been open, it still tells me a lot about who I'm dealing with. A lot of the information in there is tell me about the house, tell me about these things, tell me about your concerns. So if I say on a scale from 1 to 10, are you concerned with access? And they say 1, then I know not to spend a whole bunch of my time talking about security and lock boxes and access and things like that. If they say, on a scale from 1 to 10, 9 about having a pre-qualified buyer, I know that that's where we really need to dig into and make sure I ask the right questions and ask a lot of questions of my clients because I want to understand what their motivations are. So I'm getting information there. So I'm spending my time on the right things instead of just talking because I don't want to do all the talking. I want to get them to talk. I want to ask the questions and them give me the answers. And if I'm doing all the talking that I could have gotten done before, so doing the work before the work, it just saves everybody a lot of time and we can be really intentional in the conversation when we're sitting across from each other.
I love it. I think most don't even pre-plan before that. They just show up with their presentation pack and they walk them through, try to focus on the net, and they use a lot of that same strategy. I think having forethought and knowing you, right, and knowing how you respond to things or what's really important and critical for your delivery and where you have the greatest success is really going to be, it's a case by case. Agents have different ways of doing it. It's good hearing the way that you approach it, knowing the way that you have the highest percentage of success that puts you in a position where it should be a clean, easy yes, and not any type of sales involved, right? I mean, we
Well,
don't
you're
want to be
also
selling.
interviewing well before you sit in front of them, right? Nobody else is doing, very, very rarely are they doing pre-listing package or anything in advance. So if I hang up with a client and we've set the appointment, I'm going to meet with you Thursday at 2. I will at that time take my pre-listing packet, do a handwritten note, put everything in there that I need, and I courier it over to them. And to courier it, it's not really that much in the grand scheme of things. What, $12, $15? But I can courier it. It's on their front door. So by the time they get home from work, they've had a conversation with me. Who knows how many other people they're having conversations with, but there is a package with my information and a handwritten note sitting on their doorstep. I'm already ahead of the game before they ever meet with anybody. So I'm already interviewing before I sit down at the table. You have to think of it well before because the interview starts time you talk to them on the phone or get the lead that comes into you.
I'm sure you already have a pre-designed, pre-listing packet. Do you share that with other agents?
It's all specific to who you are, right? And so not really because, well, yes, if you're in the luxury division, there's a pre-listing packet already prepared. You can up, and what's really cool is I can take my client or potential client's home, a picture of their home, and I can upload it, and it puts it throughout the whole presentation. And then I just can send it over to Office Max or Office Depot or whatever, have it printed in an hour, have it bound, and have it couriered over. So yes, if you're in the luxury division or within EXP, we have all that stuff already prepared. It doesn't have my marketing plan in there. It doesn't have comps in there. It doesn't have anything in there that I'm going to be talking to them at the table.
But that's
But yeah,
specific. Yeah, that's specific about the house.
I'm just using the tools and resources. I mean, we have Canva Pro, we have the luxury division. I'm using the resources that EXP has already done all the heavy lifting. It's far better than anything I was doing prior.
Okay. No, I like that. So that gives you a pretty high success rate whenever you're communicating with
Mhm.
sellers for sure. You seem, organized, you seem intentional, you have a direction, we have a plan,
Yeah.
and, they're not having to guess at what the next step is, right?
Right.
I always think about being proactive really establishes no one's selling houses every day. No one's doing this as a part of their normal life. So having it organized, always having a next step gives them a lot more peace of mind for sure.
Right.
This kind of takes us a little bit different. Are you doing anything with AI in your business right now?
I am a little bit. I'm leaning into that a lot more because I think if you look at it, AI, you keep hearing AI is not going to replace the agents, but the agents using AI will, right? So I think you have to evolve. You have to be current. You have to be using AI and whatever that looks like. I don't automate things. I'm using, EXP has Fixer for all of us. Fixer's been really kind of pretty cool where it's responding and it's creating AI in your responses and it's tying into your Google calendars. It's just that's time saving. Chat GPT and all of I love to write What I love about ChatGPT though is I can write my thoughts and I can write how I'm going to write, and then it can make it a little bit more influential or a little bit more powerful in whatever I'm trying to do. So I love ChatGPT. We're integrating a lot of the AI that EXP is using into our business because we're such a forward-thinking company, and Glenn and our CIO Seth Siegler are so, I like to say we're led by nerds. So they're learning all these things and they're implementing them into our business. And so I think we're going to see a lot more AI evolving into the real estate space for sure. And I'm embracing it as much as I can and trying to learn, but I am not one that's just automating everything, AI, everything. I'm still very much a part of the process and part of my business.
I mean, like even right now, I'm not actually interviewing Elizabeth Riley.
Right. I'm using HeyGen.
So, which is incredible. Like, I tease people, I expect in 5 years that it's likely that we may not even have music or books done by humans, which is a really scary thought,
Yeah.
right? That we would be reading texts and things that can consolidate all the information we want to learn about something and make it in a easy to understand document that we can run through. And
Yeah.
it's a scary way to think about it, but it's going to suck a lot of the energy out of the creativity. Even music has imperfections as a part of the charm. You and I can appreciate probably 80s music, and it was certainly not perfect. But
Yeah.
the imperfections of what made it iconic and exciting and energy, and you knew what you were hearing and you knew where it was going to go, and it wasn't consistent, but it was perfectly inconsistent.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
But now we're going to have things that are just so finely tuned and perfected. It's a little nerve-wracking that it's going to take a lot of that energy out of the room, because I'd hate to know that everything we're reading is just computers putting it together.
Well, and I think it's with like anything. If you use something as a tool or a resource, it can be a great addition to whatever you're doing, right? So, especially with video and social media and things like that, there's some really great tools and AI tools that simplify things and give you time freedom back, right? Because that's what we're all looking for, is how to free up your time a little bit more. I think some people rely on it. Some of my friends are incredibly in tune and integrated with AI, which is pretty cool. For me, I'm still stepping into it comfort level, and I think everybody's going to step into it in their own way and use the different tools that they're going to use. But the things that I use have been really great. But again, I'm still watching and I'm still learning, and it's always evolving. So I don't know what I don't know, and I'm just trying to take in as much as I can.
One unique thing about you is you've got a organization size that's larger than most brokerages out there, right? I mean, I think you and I were kind of talking offline. I told you the estimated amount of the ninth largest brokerage, and you have the same amount of agents that the ninth largest brokerage in the US has.
Close.
That,
But yeah, I probably would
yeah.
be the 10th largest brokerage, which is a little bit crazy to think about. Yeah.
And obviously you're not responsible for, I mean, you have no broker operation, so it's even better, right? You just
Right.
get the benefit of the production. Every time someone sells a house, you get the benefit of it. That type of ongoing residual opportunity that you've amassed, does that not take away from the energy that you would want to put in and keep focusing on production? How does that affect you there?
Oh my gosh, I love that question actually, because no, not at all. It actually allows me to focus on the things I want to focus on more. I can say no to the things that are a distraction, or no to the things that aren't allowing me to say yes. I can say not all business is good business. For a long time, I was saying yes to the wrong things, spending time, money, and effort and things that weren't going to serve me or my client well. And the reality is, we're a real estate company. We're the number one real estate company in the world with transactions. We do a lot of real estate. And if I'm in the business, it's so much easier for me to be relevant and current and talk about the company and talk about the business and show what is possible, instead of if I'm at a 10-foot, 10-foot view trying to tell you, oh, this is what's going on, but I'm not really living it or really understanding the ins and outs. I mean, our industry has changed so much in the last year. Think about that with NAR and clear cooperation and things like that. How can I, and some people do it very, very well, but in my case, how can I intelligently show up and educate or communicate based on these things if I'm not truly living it? So my organization is huge. Nobody succeeds alone. I don't take it for granted. And I feel like I have an opportunity and a responsibility to continue to pour into my org and my group. And I do that as much as I can with the hopes of cascading it out to as many as possible. So I'm always it's funny you mentioned the AI thing, because I was celebrating a number of our cappers that just capped within the organization around the country. And I had a couple of them saying, I don't know if this is AI or auto, if you've got this on auto, but I just want you to know it feels really great to be recognized. And I wrote back immediately, no, it's not auto generated. It's not AI. This is me. Because I think when people are seen, valued, and heard, it's the best retention tool ever. And they want to be somewhere where they're valued and they want to be somewhere where they're excelling. And so if I can have a part of that, then I've been blessed and I want to bless others.
Yeah, I got an email from you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
That was for me. That was for me.
Yeah, I actually am in your organization. I don't know
Yeah.
if we even covered that, but if you know Gene and Rob and then Sean Sturrock and then Eric Golden's
Yeah.
the one that actually introduced EXP to
Okay.
me. So that's how the
Okay.
connection was. But it's such a large group, there are people in your group you had no idea were in your group because it's a very
Well,
large number of people.
most people I don't know who are in my group because to be fair and between you and I and your friends, I don't care. Because if you're at EXP, we're all one company, right? We are owned 78% of this company is owned by the agents. So whether or not you're in my group or not, when you win, the company wins. We're all winning together. And it's so much more fun to lift others as you climb. I mean, when I was at my old brokerage, again, I was there 10 years, loyal, grateful, but I was at the top and I was the smartest person in the room. And it's lonely at the top. It's so much more fun when you're over here and it's collaborative. It's not competitive. We open up our playbooks. And I don't care whose org people are in. We all win together. And when you own something, you treat it differently, right? And I realized I was building somebody else's dream instead of my own, and together we can all build this dream. So I love that you're in my org. It wouldn't change whether we were having a conversation or not, because when you're winning, we all win together.
Yeah, you would still let me do a podcast with
Yeah,
you. I appreciate that, Elizabeth.
yeah.
One thing you've talked about, I've heard you talk about this outside of this space, is building relationships for production and attraction, right?
Mhm.
So, how does that look, especially in the production side, the relationships? You've probably indicated some of that in the beginning. I just want to make sure I cover some of the spaces that I know you have a lot of passion about.
Yeah. And so in production, again, in my world and what's good for me, I'm a high producer. I mean, there are much higher producers here and people that are lower than me. I'm going to learn from everybody in those circles. And one of the other reasons I stay in production, it's an attraction opportunity. People are looking at me, just like you said, why those that know what I've been able to do alongside others and know what I do in production are like, why are you still in production? Why are you still selling? And it creates curiosity and they want to know and they're watching because people are watching you. It's so much more impactful to show people what you're doing instead of telling them. Nobody cares and they do things for their own reasons, right? But when they're watching you and they're seeing, oh my gosh, you're getting to do this. I want to be able to do this. How is this possible? And you can share that opportunity. I have people reach out to me. Again, I don't cold call people for business. I'm not going to cold call people for attraction. It's just not who I am. But people will reach out to me saying, what are you doing? Can we collaborate? Absolutely. Let's collaborate. Whether or not you stay at your brokerage or come to ours, I people are going to come and go, but you're always going to be working with, pretty much the same agents. And you want to build a relationship with them because who knows when you're going to be on another side of the transaction with them.
Yeah, you
So
want it good, not competitive. Yeah.
correct. And so for me, people reach out to me, and that's an attraction opportunity. They're like, we see what you're doing. We're very entrepreneurial. People think they know what we're about until they really know what we're about. They're like, oh, we didn't understand it that way because the industry it gets noisy and people create false narratives or false assumptions. And until you really dig in to understand that. And so me being in production and them being on the other side of transactions and us all working together, it opens up the opportunity to have a conversation.
I'll say one thing. There's been a major shift in since you and I are probably similar in age. I'm about 20 years into this business as well, and I watched it go from a broker-centric model to an agent-centric model overall
Yeah.
real estate, and the value of brokers have just dropped to an abysmal level. It's not all that valuable. It's not even valuable. I think I was offered some broker positions, and I would cut my pay by 75%.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to be a broker and take on all the headaches. It's sad because we still have to have a broker holder license. But unfortunately, that's also created this space where you have large groups of brokerages that offer very little value because they can't afford it, but they also don't offer any real help when they have their issues.
Right.
You mentioned that it's important for you to share things that you've done or experienced so that you can be very passionate and speak from a place of understanding than just hypothetical, right? Or theory. And that makes a difference. So when we're talking to other agents, I often run into agents that don't have a broker they can call for support because they
Okay.
can't solve a real estate problem.
Right.
They can't actually give them advice. They can't actually take them through the finish line. All they know is the legal remedies and not really solving the problem the buyer and the seller have. And that's been a real value add for me in conversations with I've had with other agents is, we don't have to resort to everyone walk away and quit. I've got a buyer that wants to buy, a seller wants to sell. We can work this out. And I'm gonna show you how.
Right.
So it's just something that's been a big change, from brick and mortar to the cloud-based. And do you see some of the deficiencies that we have? There was a lot of positives when you could go from brick and mortar to now we get maximum leverage. We only pay for what we use. And it gives us the ability to have access to things we never could have had access to before when we were in one building, one trainer. Now we have access to everything. Do you see some of the negatives that the cloud-based brokerage model has brought as well?
I mean, I think there's pros and cons to every situation. It depends on the person. One of the things I hear a lot from people that don't necessarily know our model, they'll say, well, you're cloud-based, you're all online, or you don't have any community or collaboration. And it's funny because I have more community collaboration here than I did in a bricks and mortar. And it's how you show up, and all of us collaborate in different ways, and we show up for meetings and events and different trainings. And so, in the bricks and mortar, I was only as good as the people I was surrounded by. And you talk about the broker support, which is so critical. I was number one, and when you need a broker, when you get to our level, if you need a broker, you need a broker, right? Usually you can be creative and figure out a solution before you get to that point. But I needed a broker, and it took me 3 days for a broker to call me back in my old model because they just had too many people they were overseeing. And it made me sit there and go, if I'm the number one agent and I can't get a broker, what's happening with the newer agents or the agents that are growing trying to reach broker support? That's a major problem. And so you come over here, and what I love about this company too is our leadership was all in production. They were real estate agents leading big teams. Glenn Sanford had one of the top 50 teams in the nation. And this company was created to solve problems that as agents they experience. These other companies don't necessarily have people that were in the business understanding the pains, or even the promise. So what I would say is the brokers in our team, especially in Texas, we have 15 brokers. They're knowledgeable. They've been in the business. They're creative. They figure out solutions. So we always have somebody to go to. And when you've built a business, we changed the industry, right? EXP changed the industry. And I love it because Leo and Glenn are all saying all the companies that are going to emerge are going to look more like us than any of the bricks and mortar and traditional. I think those models are a dying breed. But because we were able to pivot and change the industry, we're able to offer so many more resources. We don't have the handcuffs like they do with the bricks and mortar and the copy rooms that nobody uses and the office spaces that nobody uses. We're using our money more intentional in the fact that how can we make it easier and better for agents to serve clients at a higher level? And that's just a great feeling to be in and a great place to be in. To your point, we have so many resources at our fingertips. I don't use most of them, at least not right now, but I love having options. I love being able to pick and choose what I want from the tool belt when I need them as my business changes and grows. For a brand new agent, we have all these things and they can use all this, the tools, but a lot of the bricks and mortars, they can't because they're so small. The costs are too much. They're not making a lot of money. The margins are so thin. And I think we've just figured out a better way, which is why people are following what we're doing instead of the latter.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the future is going to be cloud. There's no doubt. It's less effort and emphasis on brand, less effort and emphasis on space, luxury space, office space, admin staff, tools you don't need, and just brokers being involved. We'd rather have trainers and coaches and
Yeah.
allow brokers to only be available for the legal aspect, right? I mean, that's really kind of the fundamental thing. It's all moving to cloud. Now it's how they do the splits and how they organize their system is where everyone should be starting to differentiate and not just copy each other.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's another topic. I want to ask you, you've got a lot of energy still in the production space. What really gives you passion in the production area, right? Or what gives you energy? Like what makes it excited to actually solve, because you've eliminated your long-term residual income need, right? I mean, we all could always use more, but you effectively are well beyond what most agents will ever see on that side. But on the production side, there's got to be something that says, I want to jump out of bed and go take care of that one right now because I want to make sure it's done right. What gives you passion and energy?
Yeah, if you know the disc profile, I'm a high S, right? And I love to serve and come up with solutions. And when clients are reaching out to me, it's an honor and I'm so blessed. And so I want to serve them and show up in the right way. I want to treat them like they're my one and only client. So what gets me out of bed is figure out the solutions, especially in this market. This market is challenging, right? I mean, it's funny because 2008 was such a horrible industry time, but I did fine in that. I was actually growing in that business. Last year was the worst year in 35 years in the industry. I did fine in that industry, right? I was doing what I wanted to be doing. This year is a little bit more challenging. And so instead of sticking my head in the sand, I'm having fun trying to figure out solutions. To your point, how do we get them to the closing table? How do we help serve this buyer and help serve this seller? And every situation is going to be different. If everything was the same, I probably wouldn't be very excited about it. How boring would this business be? But if people are buying and selling, it's challenging in this industry and the market and the rates and overcoming all these things. So being able to be creative and finding solutions is what drives me for that. And then helping the agents. I love, love, love helping the agents figure out, what they want to do in their business and how to get them to the next step. And so having conversations, like we have a mastermind every week with the top agents in Austin with EXP, the Austin icons and top producers. And we mastermind, there's about 60 of us on there consistently. And then we're streaming it live for the other agents to learn from us. But it's so fun to hear the different things that are coming up going, wait, how would you handle this? How would you handle this? So just kind of being a part of the community and being entrenched in figuring out solutions in an always changing industry is fun for me. And again, we're a real estate company first and foremost, and I've been blessed with the agents that I have alongside with me, but I feel like there's an opportunity and responsibility to continue forward and keep navigating the waters. And I'm watching what Leo and Glenn on our leadership is doing. I want to be right in the mix with them as well.
I think you identified community is something that a lot of look at cloud-based as lacking. And
Yeah,
that's a lot of time it lands on the agent, right? They don't look
right.
for it, they don't connect, they don't make the effort. Community has always been something I try to always hyper focus on anyone that joins my group, that they're going to plug in and we're going to have events going on consistently so that we can stay in front of them and coach and teach and help and answer their questions. I want them to know there's availability. And you bring in someone and they see you as a 10-time icon. Well, Elizabeth's not going to be available to answer my phone call. And which is not true. She
Right.
has a very large organization, but she got on a podcast with me. And, I don't know Elizabeth that close. So she's got time and she can help you and she cares and she wants to support you. I think that's a really good thing for people to experience and hear and feel, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Well, I think there's a difference between being busy and being productive, and you have to figure out where your time is well spent and time block well. I used to not do that. I let my calendar control me until I turned it around. Now I actually have more time than people think because I make time. I make an effort to meet with the agents. I make an effort to meet with the clients. I make an effort to do things that are important to me.
yeah.
And then my time block for my family and my children in the afternoons or the evenings. And you make it work. If you're not planning or you're not scheduling and you're not in control of your schedule, it's chaos. And it was chaos for me for a while until I figured that piece out.
Well, I think you say it right. I mean, it's going to be your calendar controls you if you do it that way. And if you need to increase your production, you need to dedicate so many hours of time towards adding clients, adding people in your sphere, growing your production. And if you want to do something like this, I intentionally do at least 1 to 2 podcasts every week. And I have one that rolls out every week. I intentionally set aside the time to do it. And I think it's a value add that agents can benefit from just for
Huh.
something that I'm doing. I was going to ask you, this is a little bit more in your own business. What would you think would be a mistake that you made in the past or something that you may want to advise agents to not go down that path or follow that mistake, something along those lines? What do you think?
Oh man, I make so many mistakes still, right? I say it's failing forward. I learn more from the mistakes than I do from the success. So a lot of times I will tell agents, don't spend money till you're making money. I'll have agents come over and say, okay, what do I need to do? I need to buy signs. I need to do all these other things. I'm like, do you have listings right now? No. then why do you need to buy signs? Let's focus on the things, the baby steps that we need to be doing, right? Those things will come. I think agents are really good, and our industry is a target because we chase shiny objects. And we think it's almost like the easy button. There's not an easy button, right? Whatever you're doing, it needs to be consistent. Consistency, I think, is the main key. I mean, I'm consistent in so many things, and when you're consistent, that's where you see the success, and you've got to figure out what that is. But don't chase the shiny object. There's so many companies out there that are like, oh, okay, pay this and pay that, even $10 a month and $20 a month. All of that stuff adds up. We're actually in the process right now. I had an old assistant that signed us up for all sorts of stuff, and I had no idea we were being signed up for all these other things. And so now we're unraveling that, going, wait, what is this for? Do we need this? And just kind of doing a recap of our business, which I think is really important to do, even if you're a newer agent all the way up to the level that you and I are at. But don't spend all this money because we are so prime to be sold to. Agents will sign up for all sorts of things, and don't do that. Be very, very intentional, be very wise in your marketing dollars. What are you spending? What are you doing with your time that's going to result in opportunity down the road? And, when you say opportunity, if you're not in the right rooms, move rooms where you can learn more and learn different things. And if there's not the right room, create that room. But for me, I want to get into, like, some of the agents will get into fast cap and learn new trades, learn new skills, learn new messaging, right? None of that costs us money. So I want to sharpen my skills by being in the right rooms instead of chasing the easy button. So I would just say right now, especially in this economy, double down on education, double down on knowledge, making sure you know the stats, the numbers, how to communicate with your clients. I mean, in Austin, just to give you an example, there's over 16,000 homes on the market right now. That is the highest inventory count since 1994, right? So does that change how you approach a seller?
For sure.
Absolutely. Mr. and
Absolutely
Mrs.
does.
Seller, you're wanting the price at 50,000 higher than the comps. Let me show you what's going on in the area, but let me show you what's going on in Austin as a whole. You know what I mean? You need to understand what the market is doing and being able to communicate that. That's not something you have to pay for. That's not something you have to have a company do. It's just basic, getting back to the basics, I would say. Getting back to the basics. I write a lot of handwritten notes. Right now, what I'm doing, I have a whole bunch of, I don't even know where they're right here. Right now, Facebook, right? We're on social media. I'm going through Facebook. I'm finding 5 people a day that I can console, congratulate, or compliment. I'm writing handwritten notes. Right now, a lot of these are going out because all the kids are graduating. They aren't necessarily in my database, but they're my friends, right? I'm creating that relationship to build the business. A gift card and a note to your kid graduating goes a whole lot further than spending money that these companies are wanting you to spend money on. You just have to get back to the basics. So that is what I would tell agents right now. Get belly to belly, go to coffee, go to lunch. Don't go to lunch. Lunches go long, lunches get expensive. Go to coffee and just say, Shaune, how are you? How are things? Right? I'm not going to come to you and say, hey, who do you know looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Build the relationship and the business is going to come that costs you nothing.
That was the mantra early on, 15, 20 years ago. We all were told that get in your sphere, ask them all those questions. I think the can thing is just not, most people see past that. They do want the relationship, and then we need to have earnestness. So I've gotten pretty heavy on my sphere of influence touch system, and none of it has to do with asking for business. None of it.
Right. I don't
Stay.
ask for business. I don't talk about the real estate. I don't
Yeah.
talk about any of the business, but they always bring it up. They always want to know. They always ask. And if you're being consistent and staying in touch with them, you're going to be top of mind. I always tell agents, don't spend a lot of money on marketing. You just want to make an impact on the way to the trash can. Don't send just sold, just listed, just any of that stuff. Nobody cares. How can you make people feel a different way? How can you make them feel seen and valued? People are going to recognize you and keep you top of mind over the 10 agents that are sending just listed and just sold, which that's marketing dollars not well spent.
I love it. Elizabeth, how do we find you?
Instagram is great to find me. It's Elizabeth Riley is my handle there. If you're at EXP, workplace chat is awesome for me. My team is Luxe Property Group in Austin, Texas, LUXE, P as in Paul, G as in George.com. And yeah, I would love to connect and collaborate in any way. Referrals, agent conversations, I'm here to help.
I love it. Well, thank you for doing this with me. I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
do it again in the future. You've a lot of good information. I've got more questions. We just don't have time,
yeah,
unfortunately.
next
And
time.
and I look forward to our next one. So for all of you out there, again, subscribe to my YouTube, Real Estate Success DFW. I'm happy to share more interviews just like this, bring you successful tips from people that are already successful. And after that, I want you to have a high performance week. Thank you.
That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.